Chapter 11. The Beggar. The next morning it was Telemachus who was the first to make the journey across the island and up the hill to the feasting hall. Already the suitors were enjoying themselves at Odysseus' expense, feasting, drinking, talking, laughing, singing. Telemachus came to the door. He stepped onto the threshold stone, lifted the latch and pushed the door open. The suitors fell silent. They stared at him. Telemachus smiled grimly. "Yes, it's me. I am home. Perhaps it was my corpse you were hoping to see carried through those doors and laid out on one of the tables, or maybe my ghost, my shade walking through the closed doors. But no, it is me, skin, flesh, bone, and beating heart." He made his way across the hall, threading between the tables, and up the stairs to his mother's lonely bedchamber. When Penelope saw Telemachus, she ran across and threw her arms around his neck. She soaked his shoulder with her tears. Telemachus told her about his journey to Sparta. He told her how he had met red-haired Menelaus and beautiful Helen. He told her how Menelaus had explained that Odysseus was being held captive by a nymph called Calypso on an island far, far across the blue waves of the sea. Penelope shook her head. "If he was going to come home, I feel sure he would have returned by now. And now the time has come for me to choose a new husband. But which one to choose, and how to choose him?" Telemachus swallowed the urge to tell his mother the joyful news that Odysseus had indeed returned home. Meanwhile, Odysseus, in the shape of an old beggar, was crossing the island. He came up to the hill, and began to follow the winding path that led up to his hall. Everything was exactly as he remembered it, except for the sounds of rowdy feasting coming through the closed doors of the hall. As he climbed the hill, he passed a dung heap. Lying on top of it was an ancient dog. When the old dog saw the beggar, it lifted its head and sniffed the air. Its thin, leathery tail began to wag. It pulled itself onto its spindly legs, hobbled across and licked the old beggar's hand. Odysseus looked down, and he recognized Argos, his faithful dog, whom he had trained as a puppy all those long years before. But in the moment of the old dog's happiness, death struck. Argos simply crumpled and fell lifeless onto the ground at his feet. Odysseus reached down and lifted the dog tenderly in his arms. He picked it up and laid it tenderly on the soft grass. As he looked down at the dead dog, he remembered the welcome he had once imagined for himself as he sailed away from the shores of Troy. He wiped away a tear and carried on climbing the hill. He stepped onto the threshold stone. He lifted the latch and pushed open the door of his hall.